Hey comrades, are you ready to share lessons from Exodus 7 to 9? Let's do it. God told Moses that he'll make him like God to Pharaoh and Aaron like his prophet. That says a lot. God was essentially putting his glory on Moses and giving him the authority to confront Pharaoh. That's a big deal. While he hardened his heart against him, so he could multiply his miracles, signs, and wonders throughout Egypt, I believe that God was going to prove that he was God to the Egyptians while rescuing the Israelites from their land. Aaron was Moses' older brother by 3 years. I said that the last time. This implies that his parents were able to hide him successfully before the birth of Moses, or they weren't taking Pharaoh's edict seriously. I kind of get the feeling that Pharaoh's edict was a joke to the Israelites and probably the Egyptians, because no one was killing Hebrew boys like he ordered. Or they were killing them, but I remember reading a Bible verse about how when you are preserved by God, he will give lives in exchange for yours. I don't know why that came to me while reading this, but it might have something to do with that. All the while Moses asked Pharaoh to let the people go, he always said it was for them to go and worship in the wilderness or offer sacrifices. Moses never mentioned that God was freeing them to go to their own land where he promised to bless them. And I wondered why. But I guess we'll come to see it as things go, as things progress. Let's talk about the magicians of Egypt. The magicians of Egypt were able to replicate Moses and Aaron's plagues as sent by the Lord up until the gnats, which they proclaimed, this is the finger of God. Now, I think that God allowed them to do so that they could get to the end of their powers and acknowledge that he was indeed greater. But more than that, I wondered why they were replicating the plagues to make them worse. Like they couldn't take them away. So there were frogs, they brought more frogs. There was blood, they made more blood. Like they couldn't, as far as I was concerned. I think so they were just trying to match up or, replicate to show that, we were. But they were just making things worse. They're very smart magicians. All the plagues up until the flies also affected Goshen, because it was then at the plague of the flies that God made the distinction between Egyptians and the Israelites, his people. I wonder why. But I'm inclined to believe that it was because even at that time, they didn't accept God or really accept what Moses was saying. And so they had to get to a point where they would see that distinction. So I think the distinction was not just for the Egyptians, it was also for the Israelites to believe. God knew that Pharaoh was lying both times during the plagues of the frogs and the flies, where he will say, oh yes, come and take it away and I will do that. But God knew, but he still allowed. He still allowed Moses to take the plagues away, but he knew that he was lying. And this shows that he listens to his prophets when they pray and they ask him for things, because Moses went back to say, okay, Lord, I've prayed, take it away. And he answered him, even though he knew that Pharaoh was lying, but he was like, yeah, there'll probably be, I believe that it was probably to show his glory at the end of the day. Now, I found this a very interesting read, and here are my hashtag getting to know God moments. God is patient. Through the plagues, we see how God sends them. And even though he knew that Pharaoh was lying, he still stopped them when Moses asked him to. In chapter 9, verse 15 to 16, he tells Moses to let Pharaoh know that he could have sent one plague to wipe them all out, but instead he spared them for his purpose. God's patience is amazing to me. Like through this whole thing that went on, first with Moses being hesitant and Pharaoh being stubborn and the people not believing, I often struggle with this virtue, patience, and I pray to God to help me. But more than that, I pray to understand God's patience more even as I read this book of Exodus, and I pray the same for you. Thank you for joining me today, and we will continue tomorrow reading the book of Exodus, and I look forward to seeing you then. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.